way this is going to change for all of us is if there is a rabid outside movement centered on labor. And it looks like it's starting to take shape. And with obviously friend of the show, Chris Smalls' victory in Staten Island for the Amazon Labor Union, I mean, we thought that what happened up with the Starbucks workers in Buffalo was big, but that is nothing compared to this. I mean, this is a touchstone point that we could be talking about a generation from now. Yeah. And now little unions are springing up all over the place as a result.
There's little unions springing up. It's so exciting.
Jordan Chariton has been boots on the ground with this thing from day one. I want to make sure I give a big shout out to Jordan, because he has done the work that nobody was interested in because it wasn't a sure thing. Once it became a sure thing, everybody jumped in the middle of it. But he was there when it was just a smattering. And, I do have the luxury of talking to a friend who actually runs a nice little weed bar, I guess, in New York City. Who gets to spend time with Christian and, that whole gang. And so she gets the real skinny over coffee and pipe smokes, And so ultimately it's just really a very powerful story. I hats off to them for taking on a huge Golgothan, massive juggernaut and kicking its ass. I mean, it's fantastic. It is the only way forward. I mean, I was sitting there doing a live stream earlier today talking about how, obviously my key subject being MMT, I talk about the possibilities that are there. But then I pivoted, did a hard pivot to say, but explain to me why none of this possibility is coming true. Why is none of this possibility coming true? Because everybody wants to organize within the parties, and the parties are controlled. They are not going to let anything that goes outside of what they really want to happen. So it's got to be outside of the party system, whether anybody likes to hear that or not. If it burns their ears, get over it. It's got to happen outside of the parties. And it's not so much a third party so much as it is a place that doesn't have that control apparatus that the parties put on the thought of the people, where we can actually take and make our message known, have power and strength, and force the parties to do our bidding, force our government to listen. And without that countervailing force, we really are looking at something that requires revolution, some form of revolution, because we are literally being lulled to sleep. It's kind of like if you ever kneaded dough, you know how the outside part of the dough is, it's the outside part of the dough until you curl it in. That's what the Democratic Party does. It just rolls your ideas and all of that stuff inside and buries it away inside some hyper, soundproof dough, and you don't get an ounce of anything out of it. All you do is you're banging. You're trying to wonder why you're in the soft padded dough room. And in reality it's just the Democratic Party putting you in a sleeper hold. And so if we don't have that labor union, and we've been talking about this since Sarah Nelson came on my program last year. Actually, I think it was right before Biden got elected, actually. Right after he had received the nomination. It was in that transition period where the Bernie people were meeting with the Biden people, and they were kind of trying to put it all together,
Yeah, we're going to take that into consideration. We'll take that under advisement.
Exactly. Well, right. when she came on to our Sarah Nelson came on our program, she had talked about how the only way forward is through some means of labor unions uniting. And I really believe that. I've come to believe that we, the people, are not capable of doing it on our own without leaders of some variety. And leaders could be us, but that's where the union comes in. That's where this kind of labor movement comes in, because it stops being about parties and it starts being about your core needs, your core class struggle, who you are in the class, hierarchy and such. And I think that if we have some class awareness and we have that class struggle through a labor movement, through unionization, and through us just recognizing that if you earn a paycheck, you're labor. I don't care whether that's a huge paycheck or a little paycheck, you're still labor. You're still working for the man. And at that point in time, that's the 99% that needs to unite together. If we do that, we might have a shot, but I don't think we have a shot. Keep rolling ourselves back in like dough into the Democratic Party. I mean, vote Democrat, do whatever you're going to do. I mean, Fetterman's a Democrat, et cetera. I'm not here to say don't vote, but I am here saying stop putting all your eggs in the electoral basket. It's got to happen through labor unions. That's why I'm so excited about what happened at Amazon.
Yeah, we always say that that's the kind of the connection that ties everyone together is the unions and workers, well, labor, not unions. But another thing that we are, that we promote is nonpartisan local races, because that's another way that we can assert what we want to assert and go outside of the party paradigm, and yet it's still in electoral politics. Like, you get people like Kashama Sawant, you get people that are in positions that they wouldn't be able to get in beyond the local level. And that's another way to be outside the party, because third party, it's not something that's happening. It's just not something that's happening. And I'm supportive of the idea, but it's not reality. Come election time, that's not what's on my option list. That's not on my menu.
Well, there's no third party candidates. I mean, look what the Democrats did to the Green Party in Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, we not only couldn't vote for Howie Hawkins, but the entire Green Party was kept off the ballot. I mean, it was ridiculous. And you think about the fact that they were actually celebrating. I brought this up. I can't. Addy Barkin, I think his name is. Yeah. Addy. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know people celebrate this guy because his story is like painful, but that jackass was literally celebrating keeping the Green Party off the ticket. And I couldn't believe my ears. I was like, you guys think this guy's like a decent human being? What? That's disgusting to me. His literal celebration was keeping the Greens off the ballot.
Well, anybody who celebrates things like that are extreme. I mean, he's a very white privileged individual who just happens to have a progressive streak. That's nice and all, but it's no different than when people complain about how come you're not giving Joe credit or Biden credit for doing this or that or anything like that? Because people who work are the reason why anything is successful. There is this massive amounts of, I hate to say it, but penis envy for the wealthy in this country. And it's a huge problem. But I think a lot of people are really starting to wake up to it now. I think that, as I always maintained, and I've been telling Jen this for a while, is that I thought somebody like Bezos in particular was going to bite off more than he could chew. And they decided to race bait Chris Smalls on top of completely give away the game regarding what they were intending to do and how they were going to scare people into not actually attempting to unionize. We saw what happened in Bessemer, Alabama.
Yeah.
And I do think that because of what happened in Bessemer, that Chris and his team learned and probably were communicating with them and saying, this is what they're going to do. This is what they're going to pull. Make sure that you counter that with X, Y, and Z. And now that it's been done, I mean, you now have a legitimate labor movement that is brewing in this country. And perhaps, I still maintain that I think Bernie made a lot more mistakes in 2020 than he did in 2016. If Bernie had the type of labor movement that was brewing at that time, like it is right now, I think he would be president, because I think there were way too many labor blocks that got in his way, particularly Randy Weingarten of the teachers union and a number of others that, had he gotten that endorsement, could have really made the difference on the margins. Do you see that probably being the case, depending on who they ultimately run in 24?
Here's what I see. I see somebody got in Bernie's ear. He changed, basically lanes. In 2016, he was asking to see the transcripts and see the, all the stuff that she had done for JP Morgan and all the other, people, the companies that she should have never been in front of, Goldman Sachs, you name it. And there she is like, that was Bernie Sanders 1.0. Bernie Sanders 2.0 adopted half of Hillary's campaign team and tried to become an establishment-friendly candidate. He tried to, basically out-centrist them. And it clearly, even though people were still rooting for Bernie, I mean, he won early and often, it was quite clear that they weren't going to allow that to happen. Once they started seeing the freight train moving, the establishment crushed in. I imagine whoever runs in the next election is going to have to toe the company line as well. They're not going to allow someone that doesn't fit within their little soiree, their little clique. It's not going to happen. And so I fully expect the Democrats to try and trot out someone like Kamala. I know that talk is out there of Ro Khanna, but Ro Khanna has, I met Ro Khanna years ago at a Millions for Medicare rally on the South Lawn of the Capitol. And we had Nina Turner, we had Margaret Flowers, we had other people there. But when I met Ro Khanna, in that moment, he hadn't been tainted. He hadn't been spoiled yet. He was definitely a Silicon Valley guy, no question about it. But he's very tall, very stately, had a very majestic kind of grip. I hate to make it out to be very, very kingly kind of effect. I mean, he was very striking feature. I mean, he was probably 6'4", really, really snazzy guy, very well put together. Easily could have kept a room going. You know, I mean, he had that kind of presence about him. Yeah. But now I'm watching him, and as much as it would have been nice to see more lefties. I mean, early on he was talking MMT. Stephanie Kelton was propping him up as like, oh, this guy really gets it. He was putting her over AOC, etc. But I've seen a whole lot more Ro being a whole lot more establishment friendly lately. And that could all be a ruse. That could be just the games people play. But I have seen way too much of that for people to feel comfortable that these people are out to help us. And so, I feel bad, but Ro Khanna's probably, if it's not going to be Kamala, or if Biden doesn't find a way to run, it's probably going to be Ro Khanna. And I mean, I know that Weaver and others were saying, Ro, we want you to run. So we did a show on that on Status Quo a while back, talking about, that Ro was being secretly courted by the Sanders campaign, by the people that worked on Sanders' campaign to try and run. So that's what I'm expecting.
Anything that Jeff Weaver says, I would do the opposite. With all due respect, Jeff. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.